Oh, oh, oh no, we can get rid of that. Sorry. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Remix EQ Live, where we are amplifying equity with a remix of information, interviews, and inspiration. I'm your host, Dr. Erika D, and today I am broadcasting live from Savannah, Georgia, where I live. For those joining us today, please drop a greeting of choice in the comments. Let us know where you are joining from and the equity work that you do or aspire to do. And remember, Remix EQ Live is an experience that's meant to be shared. So I encourage you to hit the share button and invite and bring along people, your network, your family, your friends, your peeps to join our Remix EQ community today. Just a reminder, we broadcast live on LinkedIn and YouTube. And in these spaces, we can connect more broadly, growing our reach and building our learning community. And while those comments are flowing in and those invitations are flowing out, I want to remind you that Remix EQ Live offers the opportunity for us to connect and build community with each other around the equity driven work being performed throughout the world. And we do this by centering the work. That is, our guests and viewers share examples of what they do in their role or position as a way to illustrate the innovative and effective ways they advance equity in the spaces in which they live, work, and play. So, throughout the show and in the comments, I invite you to also share what you do to make the world a more just place. This is the season premiere of season 6 of Remix EQ Live. And yes, I still found a way to make it rhyme. As always, I'm excited to return to the stream and be in community with my fellow social justice warriors. And I don't know about you all, but this summer seems so fast and furious. Like it happened, I was there. I took pictures, so I know I was there. But all of a sudden, I am here and glad to be here. Remix EQ Live is such an energizing space for me. Of course, my favorite part is showing up in the stream with you, but another favorite part that makes this possible is working with my team to book guests, which I will reveal at the end of this episode. And what I love about booking guests is that I get to show up in a person's inbox with a message that basically reads, "Hello, you're fabulous. And I love how you are changing the world. Will you be on my show? Pretty please." And when they say yes, I almost always jump out and up from my desk. I run out my office. I do a lap around my living room and I'm like, yes, yes, they said yes. They're going to be on my show. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And then this victory lap is usually followed by an email that reads something like, "Thank you for agreeing to be a guest on Remix EQ Live. You are confirmed. More details forthcoming." Period. Or maybe an exclamation point. What I really need is to add fireworks to truly communicate my joy, or a meme of me running around a track real fast and furious. All that to say, I am filled with joy about the season 6 lineup. We have new guests, new topics, and even a returning guest discussing a new topic. So stay tuned to discover who's been helping me and get my steps in as they work to make the world a more just place. And good morning, Reggie. She says, "Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday." Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for joining. Great to see you. Like all our season premieres, today's episode is a community reflection show titled Learning in and with Community, where we will reflect together on the spaces in our communities where we can learn with one another, sharing our voices and experiences. The community reflections format differs from our interview shows. It is where I show up in the stream without guests, but in community with you to hold space for us to reflect together as social justice warriors. We understand that this pause, right, this reflection is necessary for us to do the life and lives changing work that we do effectively. Previous community reflection series have focused on the celebration of our passion and purpose that led us to become social justice warriors, participation among communities, and the different ways we can combine our superpowers, which are our perspectives and practices we apply when doing a battle against injustice. We also have a series on invitation, which offers examples of how to invite those who have yet to be heard to speak about their lived experiences and ask questions about the data they encounter in their pursuits for equitable outcomes. Another series, Amplify, in which we turn up the volume on the people and communities who participate in and contribute to our work to make the world a more just place, and how we ask individuals in our communities to share about their experiences and expectations. And recently, we have a series called Influence, where we considered how our personal experiences can influence our decisions to advocate for others, and how our perspectives, our point of view, influences how we prioritize our communities, conversations, and actions for change. During these community reflections, I provide an overview of our topic, and along the way, I share or remix examples from my work or the show, or you when you share in the comments. I also include a few prompts or questions that encourage us to reflect on our approaches and our practices within the communities we serve. You are encouraged to consider these prompts and examples in depth during your personal journaling time. Or you can also do this with a small circle of support, be it personal or professional. So let us begin this reflective conversation for a change. So to start, I want to share a recent learning experience that I've had in my community that happened earlier this year in the springtime. Y'all know Savannah, Georgia is where I live. And here we have a cultural arts center downtown that offers visual and performing arts programming for youth and adults. At the start of the year, I registered my 6-year-old daughter, Catherine, for an art class. She enjoyed drawing and wanted to learn more. Inspired by this, I thought, I too want to learn more. So the next session, I enrolled in a storytelling class. It met weekly on Monday evenings and was filled with people I didn't know who had stories they wanted to tell. The workshop format supported us to learn how to tell stories better, and we did this in two ways. So one, we gained new knowledge about different storytelling elements, such as story structure to feature conflict and resolution, or to strategically include details to enhance our character development. We put this new knowledge to use and to practice by performing our stories with each other. For each iteration of the stories we told, our classmates and instructors listened and provided us feedback about what they loved or found most interesting about our stories or our delivery, and which scenes or descriptors we needed to omit or lean into. The class concluded with a family and friends performance where we shared our in progress stories with the community. This summer, I reflected on this learning experience and began to name some of the elements that made this such a wonderful community learning experience for me and others. First, curiosity brought us to class, to this community space. We wanted to learn something new or in more depth, or how to figure out how to do something better or with more skill. The classes in this community space provided an opportunity for us to be curious and to learn from and with others. For my daughter, it was an opportunity to discover different genres of art alongside other children in our community. And for me, it was a chance to build my storytelling knowledge and practice with a little less risk than showing up in the stream or on a stage. Plus, I was curious about which stories I wanted to tell outside my professional space. And if curiosity brought us to class, connection kept us coming back. My fellow storytellers and I shared a goal to use our voices to express ourselves and share about our experiences. It's this last part that is key. Our experiences, the details we chose to tell about ourselves, were an invitation to connect with each other. Our stories for this class had to be true, and they covered the gamut: transitions, trauma, personal relationships, good, bad, beginning, end, and of course, a rowdy nights out. Mine, it was entitled My First and Last Triathlon. It was a traumedy about learning to swim as an adult with the added pressure of an impending triathlon race that included an open water swim in a lake with no bottom and no sides. I was working on my comedic delivery. Regardless of the narrative, for us storytellers, the opportunity to share was the first step in relationship building, which, of course, is the first step in building community. And finally, our curiosity, our connections, and our contributions were celebrated. I shared briefly that my storytelling class culminated in a friends and family showcase. But it was my daughter's celebration of community learning that prompted this whole reflection and, well, this episode. At the end of her class, she and other visual arts students and instructors were invited to display 1 to 3 pieces of their artwork and in an exhibition called Elevate. And it wasn't for play. It was for real. You filled out a form to loan them your art piece. It was displayed for several months in their public gallery, which is in this community space where the classes are held. The show was juried, which I learned meant that a local professional artist from Savannah, where I live, judged the artwork for youth and adults. There was a closing reception and an award ceremony. It was truly a celebration. And I thought to myself, wow, this cultural arts center offers classes and invites the community to learn with each other, to explore their curiosity, to discover new knowledge and skills, and to improve their craft. This space creates opportunities for youth and adults to connect with others with whom they share space, goals, and interests. It is also the possibility that they will connect with people whose experiences, purpose, and pursuits are different than theirs. And this space celebrated the participation and contributions of youth and adults in these spaces, in this space. These celebrations recognized and affirmed community, no matter how small or transient. And for social justice warriors, these are important considerations. In our work, we seek change in the communities we serve, and our learning is our leverage. We may raise awareness and build knowledge about inequities, such as access to health or business funding, or the resources that aim to fill these gaps, like mobile health clinics or lending programs for BIPOC-owned businesses. We may facilitate conversations within our community to learn about their experiences with new services in their neighborhoods, or to learn from them about which neighborhood services or amenities best meet their needs or desires. We may convene community members to learn about systems and policies that affect their child's education and the steps necessary for them to navigate or advocate within these spaces. And finally, we may offer learning experiences that bring people together with the goal of improving their social connectedness with fellow community members and increasing their joy. For today's community reflections, I want you to think about and jot down a community learning experience that you facilitate or participate in. This can be the past, the present, the future. This can be in or across neighborhoods and churches or community spaces online. This can be an experience in which you wish to understand more or articulate more clearly or even change. This will become the focus of your reflection throughout the episode. Of course, you're invited to share your focal community learning experience with our Remix EQ community if you're comfortable, or you can note it or jot it down in your journal as you personally reflect along with us. And if you're sharing with us, please let us know if the learners in your community space are youth or adults or both. I think examples across and with generations are always lovely to learn about and consider. As we, the Remix EQ community, reflect on our focal learning community experiences, we will consider the elements of curiosity, connection, and celebration. And for those who are just joining us, this is Remix EQ Live, where we're amplifying equity through a remix of information, interviews, and inspiration. Thank you for sharing and inviting others to tune in. And of course, I invite you to interact with me and each other. Post comments, ask questions as we continue our Community Reflections episode, where we are reflecting on the community learning experiences we facilitate or participate in with consideration for curiosity, connection, and celebration. You are part of this Remix EQ Live experience. Now, let's get to it. Hopefully, you jotted down the community learning experience you wish to focus on and reflect on during this episode. Again, you are invited to share your focal community learning experience with us in the comments or the comments. My focal community learning experience is Remix EQ Live. Surprise! I love to have a shared experience so that we can anchor our reflection and our learning. So let's start with curiosity, the desire to know or learn something. First question, reflecting on your local community learning experience. What are the opportunities for you and others to be curious and learn? And feel free to drop your responses in the comments. Remix EQ Live is a learning community. Each episode provides viewers the opportunity to listen and learn from equity-driven professionals about the work they do to make the world a more just place. Remix EQ Live guests share their perspectives, their approaches, and even tools, along with their personal and professional experiences. This builds our knowledge about equity-related topics and communities, and hopefully it informs and inspires change. Remix EQ Live guests have spoken about numerous topics ranging from education, health equity, to representation in books and the arts, participation in STEM careers, and entrepreneurship. And for your next question, I want you to think about, with your community learning experience, whose curiosity informs the selected learning topics or activities? So I'll keep it 100. It was definitely my personal and professional curiosity that started Remix EQ Live. I wanted to learn more about how people were addressing inequities in their communities. I wanted to know about the tools that they use to fight injustice. And of course, I wanted to know their why for staying the course. Absolutely, I wanted to share what I learned with others, but it started with my curiosity. Now, over the years, we have surveyed viewers about additional topics they wish to see discussed on the show. Team member Kristen suggested that we ask guests to recommend future guests as part of our scheduling process. Some members of the Remix EQ community have dropped me a note suggesting guests, which I appreciated, and we have even had guests who have asked to be on the show, which I also appreciate. So while curiosities beyond mine are informing the show's guest roster, I still believe there is room for more community input, which brings me to our final curiosity question. So reflecting on your focal community learning experience, what possibilities exist for learners' curiosities to shape what and how they learn? So please drop those possibilities in the comments. For Remix EQ Live, I would love to create some opportunities for our community to share what they desire to learn from our interview and community reflection show. Of course, I can extend the invitation, and I will, but I'd love for it to become part of our show's systems, such as a regular social media post or post-season survey. And I hope it goes without saying, but I'll say it, Remix EQ Live community. Feel free to DM me or email me your ideas for show topics and guests. I welcome them. And I'll end our curiosity reflection by sharing a link to an episode from our first season where Michael O'Neill, who is the executive director of Parent University, which is in its 25th year, describes how parents and families determine which classes or other learning experiences they want to participate in during the upcoming year. So, you've had the chance to reflect on your focal community learning experience with consideration for curiosity. What opportunities exist for learning and whose curiosities inform and shape the learning experience within the community? Now, let us consider connection among learners within your community learning experience. So, reflecting on your focal experience, why is your community learning experience an opportunity for people to connect with each other? And feel free to drop some responses in the comments. Yes, this is a why question instead of a what question, because one could argue that by creating space and inviting people into it is in itself an opportunity for connection. And it is. But I think we should push our reflection and resulting practice if we consider why we believe our community learning space to be more than just sharing knowledge and resources and an opportunity for people to share their ideas, their experiences, and their plans for change. I invite you to view my recent TEDx talk entitled Building Community to Make the World a More Just Place. My talk was inspired by the Remix EQ live show and community. It offered me the opportunity to pause and reflect on the learning and inspiration I received from interviewing guests and interacting with you, our viewers, our social justice warriors. To give you a sense of my why, I begin my talk with a statement. When we speak about what matters most to us, we connect with people and connect people with each other. So now that we are in the practice of convening people in person or online, we must consider the nature of these connections. What's the flow of information? Is it from facilitator to learners? You present information to the learners in your space. And of course, this information is irrelevant, but it comes from you to them. Or is it from learners to facilitators? Learners respond to questions for your evaluation. So you ask a question, they respond, but it's mostly for you to determine what this information is and how you're going to use it to either further the learning session or further the goals that you have for the learning session. Or is the information flow learners to learners? That means those who are participating in your session or in your space, they're in dialogue with each other. They're adding ideas to each other's experiences. They're extending the thinking that they're doing with each other. They're offering critique or feedback about proposals for change, and they're even building consensus about what to do next. You also want to consider the content of the learning in your space. Is it information? Meaning, this is a knowledge building session. I'm here to give you some information that can help you farther down the line. Is it to share resources that you are hoping that learners understand these resources that you are providing to them so that they can leave with tools or assistance that they need to continue on and thrive in their lives? Is the content process that learners are stepping through some type of process or framework and they are applying it to their experiences? Or is it a product that learners are designing a solution to meet a challenge that they raised? And then I think the final consideration is a participation level. Are learners mainly listeners? Are they practitioners, meaning they're applying their learning within the session or the course? Are they discussants? They're in conversation with each other. And are they problem solvers? Are they creators? And I want to note that all of these community learning experiences, I want to note that all community learning experiences don't include all of these things. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes we are raising awareness or sharing a needed resource with community members. And other times we seek community input in the form of feedback or as proposals for solutions. And there are times where we just want space to make things and make things better. It's about knowing. When you know the purpose of your learning experience, you can then design features and activities that enable you to realize its purpose. So, next reflection, thinking about your focal learning experience. What possibilities exist to shift learners from participating alongside each other to contributing to each other's learning? And so feel free to jot this down, drop your responses in the comments. A main goal for Remix EQ Live is to add examples, strategies, tools to our repertoire as we work to make the world a more just place. It is an opportunity to build our knowledge base and resources so social justice warriors like ourselves can stay informed and inspired. But there is another important goal, which is to connect social justice warriors with each other so we can be in dialogue about our frameworks and our approaches and our tools and how they are working toward the desired change or not. I discussed this in a past community reflections episode entitled Community Participation. This episode recaps a study my team conducted to learn how people were participating in the Remix EQ Live space. I highlighted the importance of discussants, community members who drive dialogue with each other by asking questions, sharing examples of their work or work in their community. They comment on comments, connecting ideas and people. It is my hope that these interactions over time establish a connection among us so that when we need a resource or a person to bounce ideas off of or a collaborator for a project that is seeking justice, we can find them in our Remix EQ Live community. We're not only contributing to each other's learning and practice, we are creating new possibilities for how to make the world a more just place. So, up to this point, you have reflected on your focal community learning experience with consideration for curiosity, what opportunities exist for learning, and whose curiosities inform and shape the learning experience within your community. And then you've also considered connection. Why is your community learning experience a space for people to connect with each other? And to what extent do they connect? Now, let's consider the celebration of learners within your community learning experience. Our last reflection question about your focal learning experience. How do you celebrate the people in your community learning space and why? So feel free again to jot this down for further reflection, to put it in the comments so we can learn from you. For those who tune into Remix EQ Live on a regular basis, you know that our learning community, we celebrate the work and the works of our guests. So their work is what they do to make the world a more just place. And their works are what they produce to inform and inspire. This includes books, talks, online content, card decks, and more. Recently, I posted a Remix EQ Live summer reading list to amplify the works of our Remix EQ Live guests. Be sure to check it out and continue your learning in this space. 2 points that I want to discuss before we celebrate our season 6 guests. One is this idea of amplifying our guests, amplifying our social justice warriors. There was an episode that I created at the start of last season, which was called Amplify. And there were 2 things that we discussed. One was representation, that the way that we can amplify the work and the works of others is to include works and include people from communities that have been marginalized and to give them space to speak about what matters most to them, to speak about the work that they're doing, and to have the space to share what they feel is important for us to know about them and their goals and their plans for change. The second point was elaboration. And this really spoke to not only creating space, but holding space so that we can learn a little bit more in depth about these experiences. By having an interview show, it creates this opportunity to ask questions and hold space for our guests to share the details of their experiences. Because we know that this work is very challenging, it is very nuanced, and to have these limited spaces in which limited spaces to be able to speak about this work sometimes doesn't help us really understand all that it took to go into it. And so giving this space for guests to elaborate and share those details allows for us to really amplify the work, the importance of that work, and the impact that work is making in communities. And the second point that I want to make is about celebrating the process. So many times when we are bringing community into spaces to provide feedback for solutions to challenges that have arisen or have existed for a long time, or they're creating like a new product or a new type of service that can help their community, or creating and working toward changes in policy or changes in systems. When we achieve that, right, when this policy change happens, we often celebrate the change, the deliverable. Like, yes, the policy has changed. Woo woo! It's a big win. But we need to celebrate the process, what it took for community members to create a space, to come into that space and to participate in what ways that made sense for them, and also to contribute to this change. And so when we can celebrate the process, when we can celebrate what was done to lead to the deliverable, then we have this opportunity to amplify the work even more. Because when we don't do that, we limit the possibilities for people to see that this type of work, this community engagement, this community learning, this community participation is a process, is a fruitful and productive way for us to create change in our community. So I just want us to think about that when we are deciding what it is and how we want to celebrate the participants, the learners in our community spaces, to be sure that we are celebrating in a way that amplifies them and holds up the important work that they're doing, but also showcases the details that it took to make that change possible. And so to close out our community reflection episode, I want to remind you of the full set of reflection questions that have been shared throughout this show so that you can come into the space afterwards and add your examples and your ideas and your thinking, but also you can take this to your personal reflection time to continue to make that change you're making in your community. So the first set of questions were around curiosity. Thinking about your focal community learning space. What are the opportunities for you and others to be curious and learn? Whose curiosity informs the selected learning topics or activities? And what possibilities exist for learners' curiosities to shape what and how they learn? For connection, think about, why is your community learning experience an opportunity for people to connect with each other? What possibilities exist to shift learners from participating alongside each other to contributing to each other's learning? And finally, celebration. How do you celebrate the people in your community learning space, and why? Thank you so much for tuning in to this Remix EQ Live Community Reflections episode, Learning in and with Community. And as we close out today's Community Reflection show and open up the 6th season of Remix EQ Live, I want to remind you that Remix EQ Live is a learning community and a space for celebration. Our interview shows, which you're about to learn about in a bit, amplify and turn up the volume on those who work to make the world a more just place. And this season, we are celebrating the importance of preserving Black history and culture with not one, but 2 guests. First, Lillian Grant Baptiste, master storyteller, ritual celebrant, and transformational speaker and founder of Under the Baobab Tree, LLC, will grace us with her presence. She'll explain how she uses storytelling from the Gullah Geechee culture to inspire, heal, and build community. Later in the episode, we'll host Trelanie Michelle, writer, Afrofuturist anthropologist, and founder of the nonprofit Crack Teat. She'll talk about how she gathers and shares wisdom of Black and Indigenous elders, healers, and artists while teaching young people how to do the same. We have a disruptor in the house. Dr. Eva Marie Shivers, the founding executive director of the Indigo Cultural Center, which focuses on early childhood development and education. She asks us to consider how Black healers, teachers, and community helpers in early learning spaces can help us maintain resilience and claim liberation. We're having conversations at the intersection of transportation justice and health equity with Gloria Wesley, who is a returning guest, and Armand Turner. Gloria is the CEO of Exodus Management Consulting and a Fuse Executive Fellow with Chatham Area Transit, known around these parts as CAT. Armand is the Deputy Director of Healthy Savannah. And who doesn't love a sprinkle of Black girl magic? Dr. Nicole M. Joseph is joining us. She is an associate professor and associate dean of belonging at the Peabody Office of Student Life at Vanderbilt University. She'll deepen our understanding of Black girls' identities and experiences in school mathematics and share how we can better support them through Black girlhood. You know you have a standing invitation to tune in and celebrate during Remix EQ Live every second and fourth Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn and YouTube. You'll definitely connect with and celebrate our season 6 guests and the other social justice warriors who make up our Remix EQ Live community. So please watch your feed, check your inbox, and visit the Remix EQ Live webpage for episode announcements, recordings, and more information about our inspiring guests and upcoming events. And also, I invite you to discover new ways to support the Remix EQ Live community by donation, affectionately called a love offering, which makes it possible to plan, promote, and produce these episodes that you listen and will learn from. And you can also purchase merch like our notebooks. We have an Empower notebook and an Amplify notebook, and any of the shirts that you'll see me wearing throughout the season. Please browse the Blue Knowledge store. It's retail therapy for social justice warriors. And while you're on the show's webpage or engaging in a bit of justice-inspired retail therapy, please poke around the website and learn more about my business of Blue Knowledge, which advances equity in schools and communities through inclusive evaluation, collaborative research, and equity-driven professional and community learning. You can always follow us on LinkedIn and the Blue Knowledge YouTube channel, as well as subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, I invite you to connect with me here in these digital streets. Thank you, Remix EQ community, for your engagement, your encouragement, your rally, which is how we recognize, appreciate, learn, love, and take care of you as you work to make the world a more just place. I'm your host, Dr. Erika Tate, and this is Remix EQ Live. See you next time.